Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, and welcome to PS10 Radio. I am your host, Anjalon, and today we have a special guest. And before we get into that, I just want to clarify what PS10 Radio is. It's basically another avenue that Positive Steps10 LLC is using to provide information and resources to empower parents, especially step-parents and individuals to be the best you. And I am the founder and CEO of Positive Steps10, and you can check us out online at the website. I'm very excited today because we have a special guest in the house, my fellow Western Michigan University Bronco, Dr. Trinaa Copeland. And she is known for her ability to walk others through the pain of their past so that they can excel in their future. Dr. Trinaa Copeland, her bio is available on our website, www.positivesteps10.com. Today she will be talking to us about how we can model healthy relationships for our children. Welcome, Dr. Trinaa Copeland.
Hello there. How are you?
Good.
Good.
I'm so excited because I just kind of reached out to Dr. Copeland because I felt like that it was very important to talk about the foundation of the family, and her and I really connected with that topic, and I was like, this will be good. I'm going to have her on. So I'm just so glad that you were able and willing to put us in your schedule.
Absolutely. I'm so glad I was available to be a part of this. Like you said, I was so happy when we just genuine, connected just on the phone, just catching up, and then to see that conversation led to something that could be beneficial to others. I was like, oh, I'd love to be a part of that. So I am flattered that you felt like our conversation was pleasant enough to say, let's expand it to a larger viewing audience to participate in that dialogue. So thank you for having me today.
Yes. I love to help others. I'm especially passionate about helping fellow parents as I have, 2 kids myself. I know you have 2 little ones, and, we all in this together.
Absolutely.
So just for our listeners, if you have a question for Dr. Copeland as we get started with our conversation, you may call in at 646-716-8208. So just to start off, I really want to hear from Dr. Copeland as far as what does a healthy relationship look like?
Well, I think when it comes to healthy relationships, one of the most beneficial things that is necessary for it to be healthy is, I think it's important to be a complete and whole person first. And I say that in the reference that a lot of times we get into relationships and we say, oh, you're my better half, or I feel complete I'm with you. I can appreciate those sentiments, but I'd rather you be a whole person when you come to the table. And
okay, right.
I believe that when we come together, we should complement one another. So where maybe I am not as great in one thing, you're better at it. So we complement one another, not necessarily you feel something in me that I should feel myself. So
right, it's not like you're putting up pieces together. You're already together.
Absolutely. So I think that when you are in touch with who you are, what are the things that make you tick, the more awareness you have of yourself, the healthier you are, which means you're going to attract to you people who are reflective of that level of health. You know, the term birds of a feather flock together. Well, that's true.
Right.
That's true. And so when I am in a healthy place, the people who want to connect with me are healthy. The people who I connect with are healthy. We're not in this position where one of us is lacking. And if we are, we're there to encourage and to build the person to get to where they need to be. So I think, you know, one of those components of being in a healthy relationship is first being healthy yourself. Another thing that's reflective of healthy relationships is being an effective communicator. I know too many times, you know, being able to communicate is thrown around constantly. But truth is how else is someone supposed to engage you if you can't convey your thoughts and your feelings? You know, and to be able to share that with someone without it coming in a place of anger, without it being something where I'm sarcastic, without it being something where I am contemptuous or I'm belittling of you, says a lot about how I can or can't effectively communicate with you. So I think that, you know, being able to share your thoughts and have an element of vulnerability with someone where I don't fear that there's going to be a backlash from it creates a space for us to be healthy. Also, another reflection of healthy relationships is the ability to establish boundaries. You know, too many times people think that boundaries, right? Exactly. People think that boundaries is pushing someone away. But if you think about a boundary, sometimes it's just keeping something out that doesn't need to be added to your life. You know, something as simple as in your own house where you shut a door. I shut that door for a reason. It wasn't to punish you. Right. It wasn't to punish you. It wasn't to lock you in. It was to say, we need a space. We need a moment. And I know that this is a physical boundary that I need to create for me. And so I think healthy relationships definitely have those components that are connected to it. I think those are, you know, necessary, if that makes sense.
Yes. And, you know, I mean, that's why we connect so well, because what we've been talking about on Positive Steps 10 Radio for usually during our self-care segments, we talk about creating those healthy boundaries and how necessary they are to our mental health and just no drama, to our relationships. We need boundaries. That's so important.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of times we're in a place where we think that we're always supposed, especially as moms, that we're supposed to give and give and give and give and be there available to your kids. But the truth is if I have nothing inside of me to give to you, then what else is there to give? If I've taken a pitcher of water and I poured all the water out, the only way to refill that pitcher is to actually put something back in it. So sometimes healthy boundaries means that it's okay to say no without an explanation behind it. My no is an answer. If I say no, I'm unavailable, then that should be the end of it. If I just say no, that's a complete sentence. Unfortunately, we feel like we have to say more behind it. And so I think part of the challenge is being comfortable with setting boundaries and saying it's okay to take care of me, not in a manner that punishes others or makes you to feel be selfish. You know, we're in this day and age where people are blocking, deleting, unfollowing, you know, whatever term that they use in their life. But, you know, the truth is if it's not beneficial, you have to say, I need to remove this from my space. I need to take this away from me. So it's okay to do that. It's okay.
Yep. And I think that brings us back to the communication point that you made, just the fact that, you know, sometimes if it's relationships that, you know, like family or something people we know are reoccurring in our life or in our daily life, then we might need to just communicate to them and say, you know, it's just in my best interest that I gotta, create this boundary. I gotta, say no to this, or I have to separate myself from that, or whatever it may be, but we have to communicate. And that's what makes that important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a necessity. And unfortunately, you know, I think a lot of times we don't know how to communicate, because if you think about it, as an adult, you have to think about the healthy relationships you saw around you. What was an attribute of a relationship that you said, I really loved how they did that? I don't want to be them, but I want to be able to say, I want to be able to practice some of the things that they did. And sometimes, not saying all, but sometimes we grow up in families and family dynamics where we didn't see what a healthy relationship looked like. Or if it was modeled, we weren't able to discuss it or understand it, so that when it came our time to be in a relationship, like, how do we practice this? How do we make mistakes and say it's okay to make mistakes?
Right.
How do we figure it out? And, it's funny that we have all these self-help and go for this type of training and then get this type of, but when it comes to parenting, sometimes we don't get what we need out of that, as far as feeling comfortable enough to ask a question and say, I need your help. How did you sort this out? Usually when we come together, it's more of a complaint about everything.
Crisis, right.
It's not necessarily a solution. It's not how can I figure this thing out? How can I make this work? And, fortunately, I've had the opportunity in my training and in the work that I've done for over 18 years to be able to see all the different dynamics that have played out in families, how they play out in relationships, whether it's a parent-child relationship, whether it's a partner relationship, whatever that looks like. I've had the opportunity to see some of those markers of, oh, this is okay, this is going to make it. Or you just need a few more tools in your backpack to help you to get through this process. And so I think the hardest step is being able to step forward and say, I need help. And then once you say, I need help, being able to find that help. And that could be in people that are experienced in their life of what they've encountered. It could be someone who's trained in the work that they do. It can come in so many different ways that we just have to be open to receiving those components and then saying, I think this will work, and you test it out. And if it doesn't, you say, nope, that didn't work. And it's okay.
Right.
You keep practicing it and finding what tools work for you. Because once it clicks, it clicks. And when it doesn't, you pretty much know that's not a good fit. And it's okay to move on and say, let me pull out, another thing. It's a multiple choice option. There's no one way to be a great parent. There's no one way to be, the type of person you want to be. It just takes time and mistakes and growth and support from people around you that you think could help you to get there. So it's a number of different facets.
There's no magic formula at all. At all. And even like when you were talking about how we grow up and we may or may not see healthy relationships modeled for us, it just made me realize that a lot of times, like even for my own parents, when I remember them growing up, I mean, like if you were to ask me now about my parents, I would be like, oh my gosh, like, they were so close and they were so, until my father passed away, they were very close to me. My mother was by his side every single day. When he was healthy, he was taking her to work and everything. They did everything together, holding hands in public, and would cuddle on the couch, everything. But people fail to realize that they had to go through things and overcome obstacles to get there. Like it just didn't happen like that. They had their issues. There were things that were happening, but they worked at it, communication, like you said, kind of, changing the way they thought about things, the way they did things so that they could click better and be a better role models. But it just doesn't automatically happen. So, even for myself, when I became an adult and got into my relationships, I just thought I would just automatically have what they had. But they have been through so much, that I don't necessarily know. Like you said, the secrets, the things that we don't know about, that's why they are who they were. And I had to, I knew where I wanted to be, I guess. I saw the end result in them. I just didn't know how to get there. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think there's nothing wrong with, as people like to say, hashtag relationship goals. Like we can see the picture of what people present to us. Especially if it's through social media, you're only going to get a picture of that.
Yeah.
But when you are connected in but when you're connected in relationship with someone, especially people that you trust, you want that space to be able to say, "Hey, I'm struggling with something. Can we talk?" And the truth of the matter is that more times than not, we have way more things in common than we thought. We just don't talk about it. We just assume I'm the only one who struggles with a child who may or may not experience depression, or a child who has esteem issues, or a child who struggles with just feeling good about themselves or just loving themselves. You know, it's we all, or even a child that's, you know, challenged educationally, or a child that is just difficult in behavior. You know, you think you're the only one, and then you are sometimes embarrassed. You feel like you did something wrong. You feel like, what did I do here? That they're not this idea of what they should be. And I think sometimes the disappointment comes because we have an expectation of what we think that child should become, when in essence we just have to meet that kid where they're at, you know. And you know, it's funny, for example, so my oldest, for I think all of his fourth grade school year, he's a fifth grader now, all of his fourth grade school year, in the beginning of the year, my youngest son and I, we'd be outside waiting in the car, waiting for him to get out of school, 15, 20 minutes. I'm like, what is this kid doing? Like, I'm sitting in the parking lot, folks are leaving, buses are gone, like, where is my child? So literally, that's what it was. And I was so angry. I mean, literally yelling at him when he would get in the car, like, what are you doing? Where are you been? We're standing outside in the cold waiting on you. You know, just losing all kind of cool points completely. And it took a moment, but I stopped and I said, what are you doing that's taking you so long to come outside? And then he would start telling me, oh, I was helping the teacher do this, or I was holding the door for this person. This person lost something in the classroom. So as I listened to my kid tell me that he genuinely was helping other people, it wasn't that he was in there building, you know, lollygagging, or, you know, I'm going to make my mom sit outside, I'm going to punish her. He was demonstrating, he was demonstrating his love language, which is acts of service. And when I realized in that conversation, because I literally had to step back and listen to him and say, what are you doing? It's like, let me calm down. I'm being ridiculous every day, you know, bring it down a notch, Trinaa. And so when he told me all he was doing, I said, this joker is doing acts of service. He is giving people his love language, which is genuinely what happens when we have our love language. We usually give our love language to people instead of understanding that everybody's love language is different. So when I realized this, I then said, I need to meet this kid where he's at. I'm not going to punish him because we're outside waiting, you know, 20 extra minutes for you to get out the building. I then said, okay, here's a solution. If you're going to take that long to come out the building, I'm going to go and sit in the car. Your brother and I will be parked in this area. My car will always be over here, and I'll wait for you. So try your best to get out here sooner than later, please. I appreciate you helping everybody, but be mindful of the time. And so after that conversation, completely different pickup. I wasn't angry. I wasn't frustrated. I just sat in the car and waited. And it was because I took the space to talk to him, not in anger, but to talk to him, to genuinely understand what was happening. And he explained it. And because I had the information of love languages, I said, oh, this is his love language. He's in there helping everybody. And being everybody to the world type deal. So it tickled me, but it also put me in a space to say, you got to meet him where he's at. And I've been living long enough that he's not going to know what I know. He's 10. He's not going to have the concept of a 40-plus-year-old person and experience it. He's going to meet me right where he's at. So I have to step back and meet him where he's at. And not to discourage who he is, but to support him, and then put boundaries in it and saying, your brother and I are outside waiting in the car. You know that we have other things to do when we get home. So I need you to be outside by this time, please. And so he had a little fitness watch on his wrist. I said, check the time. And if you see that you're here, get yourself out in the car, please, so we can go home, because I don't want to sit in the parking lot all day, you know. So it just became a different kind of conversation. And so I think being able to step back and model for him that it's okay to help others, but also know that there's limits to how much you can and cannot give to people when you have other people waiting on you. You have to find a balance. And so that moment was a teachable moment, not just for him, but for me.
It was. Yes.
Step back. You know, you can't be angry at him because he's doing good. Like, really, you can't be upset with anything. I can say, oh, my God, that's so nice of you. So I think. Right.
And even modeling for your youngest son that, you know, it's okay to help others and, you know, you know, respond calmly to other people and see what's going on before you go off. And that was excellent. Excellent.
Thanks. Trust me.
You did good because I would have been like, I'm coming 20 minutes later and I hope you come outside.
The little one has to be tortured and sitting there. So, you know, it's those type of moments, I think, as parents that we have to just step back and kind of say, who is this kid, this person? Because we're our child's first teacher. You know, before they even get to the school, before they even reach that point of preschool or kindergarten, we are the ones that model for them. So when you hear small children cussing and fussing, and people are like, I don't know how they could. Well, think about what they're hearing. They're cussing and fussing because who's cussing and fussing at them? Or who are they around that they hear this language and then you want to punish the child? No, the child is only mimicking what you demonstrate. So if your child is a bully and maybe is aggressive and attacking, okay, well, let me step back and examine what's happening at home to say, what are we putting in you that's creating this person? Because we literally are molding them. We're molding them.
Yes, we are. And they're going to do, whether we tell them or not, they're going to do what they see us do.
Oh, absolutely. Actions always speak much louder than words. So when you see certain behaviors manifesting, you have to step back and say, so let's look at and take an inventory as to where this is coming from. Why? You know, because I think there are some things that are just natural, like that's just your personality. That's who you are. That's who you were born. That's, you know, I laugh. My husband and I are, you know, as far as personality-wise, people are just like, that's interesting. Your husband doesn't talk. And I said, oh, but he does. He's an extrovert
talk to me.
with people that he's closest to. And he's an introvert with those he doesn't know as well. Well, my oldest literally is just like his father. My little one is just like me, personality-wise. And so it's funny to see these miniature versions of us growing up and saying, ooh, good gravy. They are. But we didn't teach them that. It's just, that's part of who they are. And so now it's my job as a parent to say, how can I nurture and develop you to become who you want to become, but also modeling for you healthy behaviors. You know, it's okay to, again, be nice and help others. It's okay to have a space to be quiet, and it's okay to, you know, be more reserved. It's okay to be the class entertainer, but let's put it in, you know, boundaries of you can't do the whole day. You have to do this time of day, or, you know, it's just a matter of the balance. And I think that when, again, we take the time and the space to know not just ourselves, but to know our kids, and to really reflect on what type of person am I wanting to create in this world, then you become mindful of, what kind of things am I demonstrating? Again, when I've seen small children like 5 and under, or maybe older, you know, just ripping, just the worst mouth ever. And I'm thinking, someone taught you that. Or when your children repeat things that their parents have said at home. And as a person of color, I'm like, that's interesting. You know, for me, for those who don't know, I live in an area that is predominantly white. And so, again, it's a different type of experience when I have children of color growing up in a predominantly different environment. And you can't tell me kids don't see color, because my little one, he was probably first grade when I realized he knew color. He saw that there was a distinction. He referenced white people as peach people. And I was just like, wait, what? And we were going to school. I was dropping him off, and he says, why is there so many of them? Yeah, he said, why are there so many of them? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he started, like, pointing people out. He was like, the peach ones. Why are there so many peach ones? And I instantly laughed. But here he is, like 5 or 6 years old, but he sees that there's a difference. He saw the distinction. And so we had a conversation like, oh, honey, we live in an area where there, in his terms, are more peach people than there are brown people. And I said, but it's okay. You know, just like when we go to other places, I said, we may see more brown people than we see peach people. I said, it just depends on where we're at. I said, but we, your dad and I, pick an area that is more peach people. And so at that age, it just demonstrated, okay, he sees a difference. He understands there's a difference. And I just kind of was tickled. But to this day, I still get tickled when I'm like, oh, my gosh, he called people peach. But, you know, it's those types of things when your kids are that young that, again, you have the opportunity, depending on how your children are with other people, when those kids or other kids are at your house and you hear the language that they all use with one another, you have a chance, as I like to say, to ear hustle. And that is somewhat reflective of the environment they grow up in. You know, and that, again, if the language in your home reflects what your child is saying, they're going to repeat it. Not because they do or don't know any better. They're just repeating what they heard. And so, you know, our joke was, is there are little ears in the room? Okay, well, we'll table this conversation till later. Even if it was just my husband and I discussing something that had nothing to do with them, it would just say, we'll talk later. That was our thing. We'll talk later. Okay. Because that for us was, they're too young to be exposed to certain conversations. And so I think, again, modeling what things they should be exposed to and what things you say, no, you know, let's keep them innocent as long as possible and, you know, not stress about certain things. But, you know, again, it comes from a place of genuine care and concern and making sure that we model for them what a healthy relationship is. Are we perfect? Oh, God, no. There are plenty of days where we mess up. We all do as parents, where we said something we shouldn't have said, we disciplined them out of anger, or we just reacted, because we're human and we have emotions and we're tired and we're hungry and we get hangry. Like we have it all too. So I think if we as parents can step back sometimes and just slow things down and again, be okay with saying, I messed up.
And that's
own it.
Huge.
Yeah, own it and be responsible for it.
Right. And I like that you said teachable moments, because that's really what a lot of parenting is. You really can't predict a lot of stuff. Like you said, kids have traits, personality traits from us, but we can't really predict their behavior, predict what they're thinking or what they're going to be exposed to. And that's where communication comes in, again, to just keep that open door communication with your kids so you can talk about those times where the peach people may not be acting very nice or the brown people are not being nice to other people or to them, or, you know, just having a good relationship with your kids models them being able to have a healthy relationship with others as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like even when you said, you know, I know you have listeners who may be divorced parents or separated parents. You know, co-parenting is important. It's extremely important and valuable, because your children are going to watch. And as much as we think they don't see things, they see a lot. They see a lot. They hear a lot. And then you don't know it until they pose a question or they say something and makes you say, they saw more than I anticipated. So I think even, you know, whether you're married or you're dating or you're cohabitating or you're co-parenting or you're whatever stage you're in a relationship with someone else, your children are always going to be watching you. And you're the first relationship that they kind of identify to see what it is that they do or don't value and appreciate, you know, what they think. I've seen people who grew up in families where their parents, they said as adults, like, oh my gosh, they should have divorced because it was horrible. But the parents never knew the magnitude of what their kids saw. But they're thinking, we'll stay together for the sake of the kids. Right, we'll stay together for the sake of the kids, and there's more damage being done than good. And then you have those parents who split up and then they can't communicate. And so everything's an argument. And then your kids are watching it. And so your kids are responding accordingly. So I think, again, if we look at the level of influence we have in the lives of our children, I think sometimes we'll probably step back and make different decisions, like, oh, somebody really is, like literally someone is watching you. And again, you may not know it or realize how much they are, but if you can demonstrate for them, yes, we're not going to stay together, it's not working out, but we put forth every effort to communicate and convey to one another. You know, co-parenting, I think, can be just as challenging as being married to someone, because you have schedules and you have to figure out a plan, and you have to communicate. You have to have this constant interaction, because that person isn't going anywhere. They're going to, hopefully they're not going anywhere. There are those situations where one parent just disappears. But, you know, for the majority, for those who stick around and say, we're going to figure this out, you know, the hope is that they can say, you know what, we can't do this ourselves. There's too many landmines. We need to go and talk to somebody and get some assistance. And this is why I think that it's so important to go to counseling. You know, I don't say it just because I am in the profession. I say it because there are so many secrets. Yeah, so many secrets that can manifest, so many hurts and disappointments that we try to mask, that we don't realize what we're doing even to ourselves. And so I think when we go into a space where I need to talk to someone to help them give me a different perspective, to step back and say, you know, I want to be able to say certain things without judgment, sometimes a third-party person is the best way to go, because the most that they want to do is to see you to get to a better space. I value the work that I do, because people trust me enough to sit across from me and to dump the ugliest things about themselves with me. And for me, it's sacred. It's a space that I honor, because they let me walk with them, if that makes sense. They let me walk with them through the most difficult times, that when they get to the other side of it, I get to see that side of them too. I get to see the change. I get to see the growth. I get to see the benefit that came from them really digging deep and, you know, doing the work that needs to be done for them to be a healthier version of themselves. And I think it's a constant, ever-evolving, ever-changing thing. I never want people to get to the place where they think I'm where I need to be. I'm good. No,
I'm done.
Right. You know, we're always growing. We're always developing. We're always changing. You know, I'm not the same person I was 20 years ago when it comes to my mentality of certain things. Foundationally at the core, absolutely, there are certain things. But down the road, when you look at things, it's a bit bigger. You know, my thought has expanded. My concept has expanded. My relationships have evolved. Who I am has evolved. And so the hope is that, you know yourself enough to know when you are falling short, that you say, I just need a little bit more here. Whether it's a self-help book, whether it's a group, whether it's one-on-one treatment, whatever that looks like, you know, find the support that you need so that you could become that best version of yourself. And if you're a parent, it's not just for you, but it's for the people who are around you. It's for your children to see, you know, mom's not as angry as she used to be, or, you know, mom or dad are actually getting along and they're talking, and, you know, we're not expecting a fight. You know, it's those types of things where, you know, we want our children to see that we are not perfect. We're, you know, there's the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's just going to be there. But the hope is that they will look back and they will say more times than not that overall I became a better person because of what you did, or what you did with me, or how you know, because there'll be people in their lives that will impact them. But the hope is you will have the greatest impact and influence because you're their parent. You're molding them, you're developing them, you know, and you're supporting them in whoever it is that they're going to become, you know, but owning where you mess up and saying, I'm sorry, you know, I messed up, you know, I was wrong here. And it makes me think about a time when I was a kid. My brother, I had 3 other siblings, and so myself and my 2 younger siblings, we had gotten in trouble with something something we did not do, but my father thought we had did it. And so we got in so much trouble. And at that time, physical discipline as far as whoopings was coming down the pipe. And so we got it. And
for everybody.
When it was, we got it. And so after the fact, my father realized that the information he had gotten was incorrect. And so he had made a mistake in punishing us. And he apologized. And he made up for it, which, again, as kids, I love kids and their resilience. We were like, it's okay. And then he took us to get ice cream, and we were good to go.
Right. Yeah.
It was that simple.
It
was that simple. But in looking back, he could have just let it be, but he didn't. He said he was sorry, and, the information he got was wrong, and he, again, said, let me make it up to you, and he took us to get ice cream. Of course, as kids, you're like, hey, we get ice cream, it's all good. That temporary pain was over. But, he modeled for us that it was okay to say, I'm sorry. It's okay to own the mistakes that you make. And now as a parent, when those moments that I reacted or felt like, you know what, you need to step away from this, Trinaa. I've come back and said to my kids, Mom, sorry. I was really tired. Yeah. I was frustrated, and I just reacted because I just didn't want to deal with it. And you know what? I shouldn't have yelled at you. I shouldn't have told you to, go do whatever. I said I was wrong. And so I think that gives your kids the space to know that, you mess up. You make mistakes, but you own it.
Right.
You own it.
And this is how you repair it, right? By saying sorry. And you own,
you own it and you repair it and you make amends. And I think there's nothing wrong with that when you're able to do that. If you can't do that, then you have to say, well, if I'm not apologizing, that means I'm probably not apologizing to other people either when I mess up.
Exactly, when you are wrong. Yeah. So I want to shift gears for a second, and go back to what you mentioned earlier. I mean, you've been making some awesome points. That's why I just was like, okay, let's go. I want to hear what you got to say. So I've been taking notes.
Okay.
So I believe, that the couple is the foundation of the family unit. I really believe that it's important. I think I shared with you in the past, just people that I know that have, been, so focused on only their relationship with their children, they kind of neglect their spouse. But without that spouse, you wouldn't have a family. They wouldn't have that. With the divorce statistics increasing and family units dissolving and blended families being created and formed, how can we establish a healthy relationship with each other to model for our children? Like, what are some concrete examples for the married couple or the couple of the family that can model for their kids?
I think one of the most important things you have to do is to continue to date your partner. I jokingly said to my husband once, the things you did to get me, you got to keep doing to keep me.
Exactly.
It's not
I think Mary J. Blige had a song like that.
Right. It's a great thing when someone can woo you and they dazzle you and they think you're the best thing ever and they go above and beyond and all the bells and whistles. I get it. Life happens, kids happen, you've been together for umpteen years and you just are like, ugh.
And you be tired.
You're tired. Look, number one, you stay tired. I don't care. You just be tired. Not tired, you tired. I think the number one thing you have to do is continue to stay connected to your spouse, and that would be through being intentional with your time. That's crucial. Intentional with your time. Like, again, my love language is physical touch. And it's not all. And most people think, "Ooh, sexual." No, it's not. It's genuinely hold my hand, rub my back. Touch, stroke your fingers through my hair, touch me, nothing. It doesn't have to be, nothing sexual. It could just be you giving me a hug, just genuinely spending time in my space. And my husband's is quality time. So something as simple he likes to play video games, and he does it for him, it's a de-stressor. So there are times when he gets a new game, and I will hang out with him just because. I don't care about that game. I am not interested in that game. The game makes absolutely no sense. But it's what he enjoys. Right. Just like on the flip side, if I say, hey, come and hang out with me, you don't have to talk. Just come and hang out with me. You know, give me a hug, put your arm around me, or scoot over here because I'm cold. You know, warm me up. It's just the closeness, the proximity that I need. And so I think when you have a relationship that's valuable to you, first and foremost, because I'm a person of faith, for me, God is our foundation. For me, it wasn't about if we'll work it out. For me, it's how are we going to work it out? And so we had that conversation, like, it's till the wheels fall off. We're going to do everything we can. Some people take that, you know, and run with it and stick it out, good, bad, and you be like, ooh, no, cut that one loose. And others, it's like, you know, the obstacles we go through, the challenges, you know, because people forget, being in a relationship, especially marriage, it's work. It's not a fairy tale that you see on TV and, you know, because the story ends, the movie ends. It doesn't say the other side of it, which is all the roller coaster. It's a roller coaster. Absolutely. You have moments of time where you're very close together, and then you have seasons where you're not so close. Having children creates a space where you cannot sometimes be as close as you'd like to because you have children. And when they're younger, they need a lot more attention than, say, an adult person. And so I think sometimes we forget to take off the parent hat and put back on, I'm a woman, or I'm a man, or I'm a wife, or I'm a husband. You know, we forget to put that hat back on. And when we do that, you look down the road and you change, and your kids are grown and they're leaving the house, and you're looking at your partner and you're strangers. And that's because, what's left? Our focus has been for 20 some odd years, our kids. That's our focus. Every conversation, every activity, everything. We didn't take time to do vacations together. We didn't take time to go on date nights. We did, you know, my husband and I, we do what we like to call day dates. My kids went to school full time together, and nobody had to be at home with a child for 8 hours. We dropped them jokers off at school, and my husband would say, where we going? We plan, we go to breakfast, or we go to a movie, or, you know, whatever that looked like. We made the space during that 8 hours. That, look, and plus, during the day, I'm not sleepy. I don't need to go to bed. I'm wide awake. Exactly. So, you know,
I know you don't you hate off when you have something planned and then you end up being like, I'm so tired, so I don't want to do it, or I can't stay up.
So day have worked in our favor, where
that's really good
to do that. And it's not just around our anniversary. It's not just around someone's birthday. It's genuinely the intentional time of saying, let's make some space. And a lot of times people think they have to go above and beyond and go broke. No, you don't. It's simple. Know your partner enough to know what makes them happy. Even something as simple as going to work out together. If that's what you like to do, go do it. You know, my husband and I, a couple of times when our kids were gone to visit family, we went on some bike rides. Now, my husband loved to ride his bike, and I would say to him, dude, I'm not a professional biker. I do this for leisure. Keep up with me, not me keep up with you. So, you know, it's those little things. And so I think when you are intentional with, literally intentional with saying, I want to stay connected to you, and it's not just us talking about bills. It's not just talking about kids' activities and schedules. You know, that's another time. You create the space where we stay connected, and it's very easy when you're going through the day in, day out rigor of life that we forget about the other person, and then your kids fill up such a huge hole in your life with so much of your time that you forget. You forget being anything else. You forget being anything other than a parent. And when you try to, even as an individual, if you're a single parent or even if you're married, we forget about we lose our identity. We forget who we are before we've had kids. since having kids, and then you have to reacquaint yourself. So if you forget who you are, imagine how hard it is to figure out you and to connect to another person who probably forgot who they were too. So
right, because like you said, we're steadily growing and learning from things that we're experiencing in our day-to-day things, and there's not always with our spouse. So that means they need to get to know us, and we need to get to know them. And so we have to be intentional and make that time, put time aside, and not be talking about bills all the time. Right.
No, and you're something as simple as, like, you know, I've seen different books and exercises and devotionals, you know, especially for people of faith, where you say, I tell people all the time, go to a marital retreat or couples workshop at least, you know, once a year. If you can take your car to get a tune-up regularly and oil change, if you can go to the doctor for annual physicals, go to the dentist twice a year, like, if you can do all these other things, why do you neglect your partnership? Why do you assume that that's just going to work? It's just going to work because we made it. No, you have to work at making it work. And so I think when, again, you're intentional with the space and the time that you create to stay connected, that means you may find a workbook and say, hey, let's work on this together and discuss this later and see if something's changed. Or do an inventory. I love the Prepare and Rich. It's inventory for couples. And you go to someone who's trained to do the inventory. You pay your money. You do. Now they've made it a computer version, so you don't even have to go into an office at the time. You can do it at home, on the computer. And then there's a person who interprets the results, and they tell you your areas that you're strong in, which usually you do know, and then the areas that you need to work on. And we call those growth areas. And in those growth areas is where we make the space to talk about the things that may be challenging or just the difficulties. You know, again, we jump into certain things like, oh, I got this, or I'm a parent, surprise, we having a baby, and then you're like, I don't know how to do this. So I think it's a matter, So I think it's a matter of, if there is multiple resources available for helping you to become your best self. You know, then use those resources. Use them, because that's what they're there for, to make you better. If it's even something as simple as, honey, you know, let's make this space where we may, if you're a person of faith, where you say, you know, let's sit down and pray together. So let's write out a list of things we want to pray about together, or a list of things that you want me to pray for you. And that creates an intimate space for the two of you to connect and build a relationship. If it's something as simple as, oh, let's review these devotionals and let's talk about it later this week about what your thoughts are about what we read. Okay, great. You know, even better. Or whatever that thing may be, or thing you feel like you can do as a couple to stay connected or to rebuild connection. You know, and is it going to be awkward? Yes. Is it going to be uncomfortable? Yes. Are you going to be frustrated because you feel like you should know these things? Yes. But don't give up. Yeah. Don't stop. Keep trying. You know, keep trying. And if that means that you go to couples counseling by yourself to figure out you so that you can actually talk to your partner, that's okay too. I've seen couples where I only see one part of the couple, because that person is like, I'm just trying to figure me out and how I can have a conversation with them without it leading into something more. And so, again, that's them taking the time to know themselves and to say, I want to be a better version of me, not just for other people, but for me, you know, because when it's all said and done, I want to be able to say, I like you. I like being with you. And even, you know, even if I'm not in a relationship, I like being with me. I like spending time with myself. You know, people laugh at me when I say, oh, I go to the movies by myself. And they're like, why? And I was like, I'm not talking during the movie no way. So going to a movie I'm fine with. I'm going to enjoy the movie. If I decide to take myself out to get something to eat, I've done that too, because I'm comfortable being by myself, but I'm also okay in being with other people. But you have to have the balance. You know, I think we weren't created to do this life alone. We were created to
we're not.
In relation, not necessarily relationship, but to have connections with other people.
With other people,
dating,
And
or if it's friendship. It doesn't matter the type of relationship, but just know you were built to be connected. You weren't made to be alone.
You're not supposed to be alone. Right. And I think that brings us back to your first point, which is being a complete and whole person. You have to kind of have that self-awareness, self-love in order to extend that to others, your children and your spouse.
Absolutely. I have nothing to give you if I can't give it to myself. You know, the running joke, a couple of years ago, I started practicing yoga. Now, most people, when they practice yoga, they apply the principles of yoga. For me, again, as a person of faith, I have scriptures that I can reference when they bring up certain points. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this is a scripture that goes to this. And so I'll meditate on that intent or that space of the scripture for myself during my yoga practice. And I loved it. It was a great intentional space for stretching and relaxing and slowing things down and being able to just kind of close all the outside noise out. And so when I did that, you know, the few times that I did it pretty intentionally, like 3-4 days a week, for like a year or so. That was like all I was doing, yoga and running. And so one night I didn't go, and my husband was like, I need you to go find your center.
Like, you need to keep that up. No.
Right, because he saw the difference. He saw how the space had been created for me to slow things down, and how, you know, as he put it, you're so zen. You know, it was a joke, but at the same time, he noticed, just like I knew, that there was a difference when I went to practice, because I could feel myself slowing down to just be, to be calm, to be in a space of just being content. And so whatever it is that you need to do to take care of you, it literally impacts those persons around you. You know, everybody experiences the difference of who you become or who you are as you get to a better space for yourself. And I don't think it's a way of being, I don't think it's being selfish. I think it's really, in essence, you growing and evolving. And the benefit of you becoming this more complete self is that in your relationships, you do change, you do interact and become a little bit different, but it's not it doesn't have to be in a bad way. It can be in a good way.
It doesn't have to be negative.
Right. They can say, oh, my gosh, I love that you're doing this. You know, again, the joke, my husband was like, you need to go find your center. You need to go to yoga tonight. And I was like, oh,
he saw that. He saw that difference.
Right. He saw it. And so, you know, I was like, at first I was kind of, what? But then I said, but he noticed. He identified.
But it's interesting because I wondered, did your kids notice too? They could tell, oh, mommy, she chill.
They would say, like, it's funny how much they know me, because if I leave the house in certain clothes, you going to work out? Yes, I am. If I leave the house dressed a certain way, you going to a meeting? Yes. It's this day, Mom, you're going to a meeting? Yes, I am. Usually when I went to yoga, they associated with just going to work out. That's how they put it. You're going to work out, because the classes I would take were normally in the mornings when I would take them to school. And then a couple of classes I took in the evening. And it would be my husband doing the whole, you know, bedtime routine. And then when I would come home, they would already be in the bed. So I think for them, they just associated my attire with Mom's going to work out. That was just the term. Mom's going to work out. It didn't matter what it was. Mom's going to work out.
Yeah, and she got on.
Right. Yeah. I think, if anything, you know, there have been moments where they've said something about other stuff, which made me to say, ooh. Yeah, they're watching. They see me.
They're
watching.
Yeah.
Which is why I say it's very important to be not just, you don't have to walk around on eggshells and kind of guard it, but I think it's just a matter of being mindful of what you're doing, because your kids are watching, whether they're small or they're teenagers or adults. We're always watching what our parents are doing. We're always watching those people who had the most influence around us, because we want to talk to them. We want to ask them questions. You know, I'm 40, almost 44 this year. There are still things that I inquire of my parents. You know, things I still feel like I can learn from them, even though I've been living this long. They've been living longer. You know, and I appreciate the wisdom and the experience of those that have done things before me. Have they done it the exact same way? No. But are there things that I can probably learn from them? Absolutely.
Oh,
I mean,
I see it.
They have made their mistakes. Yeah, they make their mistakes and they say, this is where I messed up. This is what you need to do this. You know, whatever that may look like. Or maybe they just say, don't do it the same way I did it. And then they explain to you why. You know, I think it's just a matter of if we're open to receiving what people have to say to us, that helps us to determine those little nuggets, if they kind of benefit us and help us, or if those things, you know, become stumbling blocks and they are to our detriment. So, yeah, I think it's a matter of really just, again, knowing yourself and being intentional with what you do, with what you practice or try or implement or take out. Just be mindful of it.
Yeah, like I said, parenting is one big teachable moment. One moment after the next.
Yes, and you learn a lot about yourself as a parent. You may learn you have no patience.
Yeah, we do.
You may learn that you are great in this thing, but not great at that. I mean, you really learn a lot about yourself. Not that you want to have a trial and error with a kid, but it really is.
That's what we do.
You know, it really is. It's just that because there is no perfect parent. There is no perfect relationship. There is no perfect anything. Like, there's only lessons where you learn, you know, not necessarily failures. I don't think it's always a failure. I think it's just a lesson that you learn. And if you don't learn that lesson, you're going to keep repeating that same thing. But hopefully it's not viewed as this failure. It's a lesson that I've learned. It's a lesson that I'm learning. You know, it's something that I'm growing in and evolving in. So, again, it is one of those things where you're going to make mistakes. Own that. If nothing else, own the mistakes you're going to make. Accept that you are not perfect. You are not flawless. You're not anything that none of these songs have made about you.
Exactly.
You acknowledge that I'm imperfect. I'm a mess up. But the difference is I'm going to own it, and I'm going to try and improve or do better. You know, I'll do better with practice.
I love it. So we're in our last 3 minutes. That went fast. I'm so glad we touched on a lot of awesome points. Seriously, like, I definitely want to have you on again. This is great. So I just want to kind of recap some things. You kind of started off telling us what the healthy relationships were, which is to just be a complete and whole person first, and complement one another, not relying on that person to be your better half or, you know, to complete you. The second thing, just being an effective communicator, which is so key in a lot of relationships, you know, with your spouse, with your children. You need to make sure you're communicating and keep that door open for communication. And number three, being able to establish boundaries and say no when you need to, and kind of maybe you need to guard your time, or maybe you need that space even within the home. Like you said, doors are just another symbol of a boundary, and it doesn't have to be permanent. It can be temporary or just for a moment so you could regroup and kind of get to know yourself. And then also just valuing different things, valuing your relationships, when you're co-parenting, and just the fact that you are your child's first relationship. Really value that, because you have to remember they're watching and be mindful of that. And then going to counseling and digging deep like that. That's one of components of, like, finding your support. And you also mentioned going to groups like self-help groups or support groups, looking at self-help books, owning your mistakes, which is so important, because if we don't teach kids how to repair, or at least how to, you can't always solve everything, but they can at least own their mistakes. If they've seen that you've done it, it's not so hard for them to go ahead and do it. And then as a couple, just stay connected, because, you know, and there's different ways to do that. You said continue to date, be intentional with your time, which is very important, and knowing each other's love language. And we love the love languages, so we definitely on the same page with that. And just acknowledge that you're not perfect. No parent is perfect. Even though we may, really value the things that our parents have taught us, we know that they've overcome some obstacles to get there. It wasn't a smooth sailing. So, all of these are awesome points. So I'm so glad you came on today, Trinaa.
I'm so glad you welcomed me. I really enjoyed our conversation. I enjoyed hanging out with you. It was enjoyable. Really, really enjoyable.
Good. So I'd love to have Dr. Copeland on again in the fall. And we're going to wrap up our show today. And like I said, just be the best you that you can always be, one positive step at a time. Thank you for listening. Peace.